Welcome, everyone, to a very special edition of the Rosie and Bill Show. Tonight, we welcome back singer, songwriter, rising country music star, and one of our favorite all-time guests, Allie Colleen. Allie, welcome back to the show.
Hi, you guys. It's good to see you again.
It's so much fun to see you, Allie. We've missed you, but we've been keeping up with all of your adventures. I'll tell you, what a year you've
Has it
had.
looked cool? Has it looked cool?
Are you kidding?
Are we shooting it right? Does it look cool?
Yes, you are. I mean, yeah, the videos online are awesome. And we
Thank
were
you.
lucky enough, of course, last March to see you in person at the American Music Theater when you were touring with Brice. And then you started a tour with Jelly Roll. So
That was crazy. It was one of those years where you weren't even sure if the year could even get better. Like that was a little daunting for me coming off the lead tour. Like, well, geez, guys, like that was fun. And then to end up on the Jelly tour for the last 20 cities, with Shabuzi and Ernest, just incredible artists, that was wild. That was wild.
well, we saw you like, you were just looked like you were having a blast. You're running across the stage, low fiving everybody.
I was worried for a minute that they weren't going to let me use those catwalks because sometimes, right, like as your show elevates throughout the evening, like maybe the very first artist, right, is kind of just pigeoned on the stage. That's happened before. And so I remember the first time I saw the stage layout, I said, you guys gonna let me out there on those? And they said, oh, dude, you can do whatever you want. I said, let's go. I was so excited.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
That was
and
amazing. That was crazy.
And Allie, speaking of amazing, I have to bring up a video that I've seen, and I think, I don't know, millions of people have seen, and that was the one where you and Jelly Roll in the rain singing Save Me together. And I don't know that I've ever seen, and I'm not just saying this because you're here. I truly mean this. I have never seen anyone with more joy in their face and joy in their voice. You
Oh,
were
you're
like
emotional about it.
levitating. Was that experience half as good for you as it was for us watching? I mean, what was it like?
It was crazy. It was crazy. I was privileged enough. So night one, Jelly had mentioned, hey, do you know the Jesse Murph duet? I said, yes. He was like, cool, we're gonna have you do it. And so the whole tour I'd been doing the Jesse Murph duet. But he had mentioned then, he said, but the very last city, if you want, you can do Save Me in the Rain. And
Mm.
I was so excited. And I knew at that moment that I was gonna, oh, I get so emotional. I knew that I was gonna experience that moment for the first time when it happened. So the whole tour, I never even watched it. I never watched the last part of the show. I never even watched Jelly sing in the rain. I wasn't even really sure how it worked or where he came from. Like I never watched it. I never watched it one time. And then the very last night, because I'd watched the show up to it, and then I would go and I'd go pack up the band or just something, and I wouldn't watch it. So I experienced that the first time as not only a fan, but also getting to do it. And that was the craziest thing. That water was so cold. That water was so cold. That was crazy. Oh,
But you
it
couldn't
just sits
get
in a
out.
pool all day. He uses the same water all tour, and it just sits in a pool all day until he needs it. And it was so cold. That was special. My favorite thing I think about that whole thing was like that night, I was looking at stories that people had tagged me in on Instagram that they'd taken. And there were these women up in like the nosebleeds of nosebleeds, right? Like I looked so little on their little story, and you couldn't even hear me because they were just like, that's our girl. Like that's Allie. Like we're so like they were so stoked. And I was like, they watched that from all the way up there, and like still it meant something to them. And I wouldn't even know who they are. I didn't even recognize the account. And I usually do if it's someone who like pops into my lives or something like that. So it was like I felt really, really cared about after that moment. Like for people to be excited for me, oh man, it was so special. Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
But Allie, it just seems to me that you kind of were made for this.
I don't know what I could do without it. Like it's such a because I don't feel like I connect with people very well. Like in my world and my life, I don't feel like that's something I'm very good at. And it's just crazy like the relationships that you're able to make like in this business, like through music and you meet people for the first time and they've loved you for years. And it's very encouraging and it's very kind and it feels like a lot to think that I could give something back, but it seems like it's always an exchange and it's really, really special.
Last year when we saw you in Lancaster, after the show, you were out there taking pictures, signing merch, doing everything. And you just had the biggest smile on your face, but more important, you put a smile on the face of everybody in that line. I don't know too many people that I've ever seen that even wanted to connect, but actually connected with people the way you did. It was amazing.
It's my favorite part. It's my favorite part. We got to do the same thing on the Jelly tour, and um, because sometimes it was like there was a lot of really cool things about the Jelly tour, and there's a lot of things that were just kind of tough, right? Like being just the little guy. So sometimes it was just on the contract that everyone's merch had to be up on the advertising, like screen grates, right? Like that's in the contract. Everyone's merch makes it on the grate. So some nights there wasn't enough space for everybody's, right? So mine is on the grate, but somebody else's is on top of it, right? And so it was really hard to sell merch that way, and that's not on anybody's part. That's just like, again, little guy, I get it. But with that said, Bev and I would go out every single night, and like we would sell our merch ourselves, like in these arenas, and we would sell them for 2 to 3 hours, and we would sell them during the whole show, and we got to meet so many people, and we worked so hard, and it sometimes it was really tough, and sometimes it was easier than others, but that's my favorite part. I can't tell you how many little girls I got to put my little, I have a horseshoe face tat, and I would just keep my eyeliner in my back pocket, and every little girl that came up that complimented my face tat, I would just put a little, I'd put a little horseshoe on her. I can't tell you how many little girls were rocking these freaking sick little face tats around this arena. Oh, it was the coolest thing. I can't tell you how many like young men came through my line who had like jelly tats, like just like eyelinered on their face. I was like, this is the most inclusive I've ever felt. Also looking the way that I look, because usually I'm the tattooed person in the room. And like being on the jelly tour, we just everybody was a coloring book. It was crazy. I've never experienced anything like the connections I got to make on the jelly tour, like with his fan base. That was inclusive. That was cool.
Yeah, when I saw that you were touring with him, I thought, well, this seems like a good pairing.
It is. It is. I feel like everything kind of came together because I feel like it's sometimes you want everyone to be so different, right? And sometimes that's really cool, but sometimes artists don't get paired with artists that are so much like them just because that's not really kind of what we're doing anymore. And it's kind of like it was really cool to get to experience that on the Jelly tour, and maybe to get to be introduced to fans that were so receiving of me in ways that maybe other fan bases haven't been in the past. But it was just special. All of it was special.
Oh, that's wonderful. But in 2025, you've hit the ground running again. You've
We are
got
trying.
coming out on February 21st, and the name of it is a little misleading. We want you to tell the story behind it. Sincerely Rolling Stone. Talk to us about that.
So very similar to my very first album is called Stones, but that song Stones is also called I Don't Give a, right? Like that's the parenthesis title of Stones. So Rolling Stones parenthesis title is Sincerely. So it's a song called Sincerely, and it lands on Sincerely You're Rolling Stone. So all that to say, I knew that I wanted the whole track to be centered around the song Rolling Stone because Rolling Stone is just something that came out of 2021 for me, where the first time we were playing, for people coming out of COVID, and you could very much tell no one was coming out to hear the music, right? Everyone was coming out to see each other again and like experience life again. And I just got to be this cool little background piece of that. But I just sat on these stages and just watched all of these crowds get to be together again. And usually after the show, maybe we all drink too much and we all share too many stories or whatever the case is, but these people always share these really fun stories. And in 2021, everybody was grieving and all the stories that they shared were really heavy. And you always came home a little heavier than you left, which usually I'm throwing my stuff on people and coming home just light as a bird. You know what I mean? And so everything came out of that was just where this whole project is. The entire EP is just those songs that maybe I don't feel like the world's going to relate to. Like these are not your commercial songs. These are not the songs that I feel like maybe anyone on the planet will think they're written about, but they're written about me. And they're my experience, and they're what my point of view is, and hopefully that matters to maybe my fan base that have followed for a long time. So this whole project is just sincerity, and it's just trying to be as transparent as I can be with songs that I really care about. So I'm really excited about this project, but I don't know if anyone else is going to care about it at all. But I'm really excited.
Well, Allie, I can tell you, one of the things that impressed me about this project is that you were involved in writing of all five of the songs on the EP. And I love all five. So anybody that does it may need to go for, I don't know, a little hearing check or something
Oh,
like that. But I really do. I love all five songs. But Were there more songs? Like, how did you go about picking these particular ones? I know you just kind of explained where they came from, but were there more? Did you have to do any sort of whittling down to pick what finally ended up on the project?
Yeah, I think that there were other songs that I could find cohesive projects for them to be a part of, right? So any of this stuff, to answer your question, everything that didn't make this little 5 song EP has a beautiful life in a cohesive project that'll be the next thing that we do. And it's
Hmm.
just because those I do feel like have more of a commercial vein in the sense of they're still really personal for me, but I feel like they really strike a vein in the commercial world, and that can be a really cool cohesive project. Whereas like these five, I felt like they were just the misfits, if that makes any sense. I just felt like maybe they didn't go with anything else. Um, or something like there's a track on this called Household Name, and that's a title track that I feel like everyone has kind of been waiting on for me. And it's a really, really personal thing for me. And so I wanted it to be a part of a project that was only advertised in sincerity and only advertised in, hey, this is something that Allie wants everyone to understand is almost private. Like it's almost like I'm bringing you guys into something that's private for me, opposed to sharing something with the world that I'd rather keep private. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but this is just my little cluster of misfits that I really cared about. That I feel like I would share with somebody in privacy.
I love that because I do think that sometimes you have to let that out. The thing
Absolutely.
that maybe people aren't really sure, or maybe it is so personal that's like, oh, I don't know if I want everyone to know this, but
Right.
sometimes that's exactly what you have to do.
And it's tough because you can't control the narrative that they place on it, right? So I can't control how people have received my social media in the past to put their characters into place. You know what I mean? So that's really scary for me. And especially when a song, and I don't feel like any of these songs do, but sometimes you have negative characters in your songs, right? And you praise a songwriter. I hope that you guys are filling in the blanks in your own life with these and not trying to figure out who my characters are, because that's not what's important, you know? So I think that's also spooky, but I just happen to be the character in this project that I'm worried that people aren't going to narrate right or people aren't going to understand right. But again, it's crazy to be loved and empowered and celebrated for something that is 100% you, right? Like authenticity is one of the greatest things I think to be praised about somebody.
Hmm.
So anybody who does care about this project, that really means something to me, even if it's not as many as I'd like it to be, but I still think it'll be received. But you understand what I'm saying? Like it really means something to me if this means something to you.
Of course.
Yeah, and I think if your face should be next to authenticity in the dictionary, that's the picture that should be there, in my opinion. And I have to say one other thing about one of the other songs, "Grass Over the Grave." So the first time I listened to it, my I think I went, hmm. And then the second time I listened to it, I was like, wow. Like it just hit me two different ways, but it's just really powerful stuff. And I love powerful, authentic, genuine lyrics. And I think that's what each one of these tracks have and really just jumped out at me. That one in particular just really hit me.
I think Grass in the Grave might be a to listen song for most people because that title, I think Grass in the Grave just locks you into something, right? Like Grass in the Grave pretty much locks you into me a grief narrative, right? Of you lost somebody, like someone has passed and like that kind of thing. And that just isn't the case with Grass in the Grave, for anyone who's listened to it or wants to listen to it. It's just about like you had to bury a season, you had to bury an expectation, and you had to bury what you thought a future was, right? That kind of thing. And so I think it's maybe a to listen song for that reason because I get that a lot. But I love that song and the intent that was put into that song. And that was a song that we released as a single. It's the only one in this project that was released prior to this project. So I thought that was a good introduction as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, now I want to just switch gears just a little bit, Aliens, because we already talked a little bit about March 2nd of 2024, which by the way, I forgot to mention earlier, that's where I got
Yes.
this and it's
A
signed.
t-shirt.
Faded a little bit, but yeah, I got some of that merch too, folks. But anyway, love it. So last March 2nd, Lancaster American Music Theater, as Rosie said earlier. And in a couple weeks, March 2nd, 2025, you're back in Pennsylvania at the New Hope Winery. So what's this March 2nd Pennsylvania thing, first of all?
I don't know because I would have never known about it if you wouldn't have told me, which is also my favorite thing about it because it is very serendipitous. But I think it just means we're going to have just as good of a time as we did last time, right?
Oh,
I
oh
feel
yeah,
like
but
that's
you can't
I
beat
feel
that
like
because
that's what it's telling us.
Yes, I think so. So
And
for
Pennsylvania is a good place to be, to have a good time.
I could be wrong about this, but I also feel like March 2nd might be the Lee venue where Allie decided to work out with her VR on that day. And when I put my VR that day on in the room that I was in this theater, it was empty. And when I took my VR off after my workout, there was 50 folding chairs set up in this room for like a media thing. So just imagine Allie was just boxing on virtual reality while these men were just setting up folding chairs around me. I had no idea. But I'm pretty sure that that was March 2nd also on the lead tour. So there also might be some crazy wonky things that happened this year on
yeah,
March 2nd. So it's worth being a part of, you guys.
yeah.
Awesome.
So for the folks in the New Hope, Pennsylvania area, or anywhere within drivable distance of the New Hope Winery in New Hope, let's say on March 2nd, what can they expect to see when they come to see you that night?
Well, we will be performing all of the new music. So even though, so we'll be performing all of the new music that comes out on February 21st. So it'll be a lot of introductory, not even a lot of them, but five songs out of the set list, right, will be the new music. And then we keep in all of our favorites from music that we've released over the years. So for anyone who might have maybe listened to our Stones album or maybe not, like if you're someone who likes to come to shows and you like to know some of the songs, I would go and just listen to the Stones album a little bit. And obviously, the singles that we've had out since then. But our band set, I think, is pretty tough. I think it's pretty rockin'. We kind of fall into like an outlaw Western pop punk thing. We also only speak out of love from my stage, but it will sound like a pirate. And I want to let you guys know that. I say wordy dirds, but I only speak out of love, I promise. So think about that when you bring your little babies with you, and I can't wait to meet them.
I love that you said punk in the description of your genre.
It is. I don't know how you get punk into outlaw country, but that's what I'm trying to do.
That is
You're
so,
just doing you.
yeah,
Yeah.
you are unique, Allie, in the best way possible. So
Thank
what
you.
else besides March 2nd do you have coming up this year?
We have a lot of dates that we're excited about this year in all types of places, and we keep all of our tour dates up to date on alliecolleenmusic.com. But I think one thing I'm the most excited for this year is I've never been on a cruise. And
Hmm.
I get to just play one this year. So me and Bev just get to go and be girls. We're not taking the band. But it's a country cruise line. So it's like myself and Jared Neiman and there's like 30 artists on it of all different kinds of caliber or whatever. So if you guys want to come on a cruise with me over Halloween, you guys,
Oh, your favorite
we're
holiday.
doing that in
Yeah.
2025. We're trying to think of a costume that like everyone could be, but like no one else is going to be on the ship, right? So think about like minions, but not minions because too many people are minions. But
Right.
like if I run into a minion on the ship, I know you came for me. Like I'm just going to start a posse
Yeah.
of whatever this costume is on Halloween. That's my plan. So I'm really excited. I'm manifesting it. Please come party with me. I've never been on one.
Wow. So Allie, it's pretty clear that your fans have a lot to look forward to this year with all that you've got going on and all that you've got coming up. But how about for you personally? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, what a beautiful question. I can't say that I think about it too often. Um, You know me, I'm a little gym rat. I've got some goals this year that I'm really excited to test out and just see what that world is like for me. Allie's been on a really big, just like self-preservation journey for a really long time. And I'm just excited for summer to come back around and water to be a thing, to be honest with you. That's my main thing I'm looking forward to is water being in my life again.
I hear you. It is freezing cold here. We just had an ice storm last night. I am so ready for spring. For me, it's pitchers and catchers report to duty. I mean,
I don't know how we're supposed to function. I have to remind myself this every January. I'm like, hey, you're not crazy. It's January. You don't want to move. It's January. Like, you
before,
still want to do music. It's January.
Allie, before Bill asks his last question, I have a question for you because
Yes, Sam.
we shoot ahead of time. So this event will have happened, but who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl?
OMG, the Steelers. I vote for the Steelers every year, and I'm sticking to it. I don't even know who is in it this year,
Well,
but
we'll
I am
tell you.
voting
Ready, Bill?
We
for.
figured that part out.
Yep.
ES.
Eagles.
The other side of Pennsylvania.
That's our team.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys though. I really do vote for the Steelers every year, and I'm doing it this year. No offense, respect, PA. Steelers. I'll die on this
Ah,
team.
we still love you anyway, Allie.
I'll sleep
Well,
through the whole thing. I promise you. I'll only wake up for the halftime show.
okay. All right. So as Rosie said, I do have one last question for you, Allie, and that is, and we talked a little bit about this to some degree last year when we talked about one of my favorite songs, Work in Progress, and really how you've been a work in progress. So if you look back at, these last few years and all you've done, all you've accomplished, what are you most proud of?
Oh, geez. Man, I don't know. I think. Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know. I know that my first thing that comes to mind is the Hard to Love album of Brice was the first CD that I put into my car when I was 16, like to go and
Hmm.
sing it myself. And and I just that was such a crazy thing to work towards and then to work with him, but then also there was a really special thing with Allie that had to be if you're going to perform with people like this or decide to work with people like this, you got to kick it into gear and really believe in yourself. So I'm just really proud of I feel like maybe the courage that Allie has had from start to finish. And like that's something that I know is going to be crucial going forward. Because if anything about the Jelly Tour taught me anything, it's that this gets harder as it goes on, opposed to easier. And so I'm really excited to be brave, and I'm really excited to how I've been brave in the past. And I think just those connections, like that I made with Brice, and those kind of things wouldn't have happened if Allie let her insecurities or anxiety get the best of her. So I think I'm really proud of just the boldness maybe that has been required to receive what we've received.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a substantial accomplishment because when we let, like you said, the insecurities or the fear kind of grab a hold of us, it can be paralyzing. And, and people think that because someone's out there doing their thing, that they're not afraid or they're not insecure,
Right.
but you got to push through it and do it
Mhm.
anyway. And that's kind of the thing that I think both Bill and I noticed about you was that whatever you, Allie, are feeling, all that comes through is confidence, boldness,
That's
and
crazy.
joy.
Yeah.
Thank you. That
Yeah.
means something to me because it doesn't feel like that all the time. But I know what it was like being little and seeing confident women. And I just never wanted to be anything other than that for all age people. You know what I mean? But it is really tough. So thank you for recognizing that. That's really sweet. That's really kind.
Yeah, and one last comment I'll throw out there too, Allie, is you mentioned Brice and that first music you were listening to. I will tell you, when you guys did While We're Still Friends together on
Mhm.
that stage in Lancaster, blew the roof off.
Oh,
Amazing.
I've never gotten to perform with like a vocalist, like I've always been the vocalist. Like that was crazy. I feel like I did put my like big girl boots on for that. That was
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
Oh, that was fun. I wish I could put that in a bottle. That's one of those moments I'd put in a bottle for sure.
That's wonderful. Well, Allie, we're behind you. We support you. We admire your talent and your courage, and we wish you just another fantastic year. So
Thank you
go
so
get them.
much. Thank you, and thank you for already being a part of it. Thank you for fitting me into your scheduling, all that kind of things. You guys, thank you for supporting me and continuing to. I really appreciate it. And it's good to see you.
It's great to see you too. And folks, as always, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
There was a moment, a season in my life. I put you in my plans. did what I thought was right. I worked so hard just to watch it die. Sometimes you have to leave some things behind.